Series 2, Session 2, Projects to Hotels and More with the Gandhi family of the EXG group. Before we start, a few protocols, please kindly switch off your mobile phones and keep yourself muted. Also, there is a Q&A box where I would request you to kindly put in your questions, where after the session ends, we will ask the panelists for their inputs. I would also request you all to bear in mind that we will be recording this and putting it up on our YouTube channel for further circulation. So thanking you all for coming in today. Nilesh and Kayur, welcome to Amtoi Dialogues. It's an honor to have you here. Let me give a brief introduction, although you're so well known. Congratulations on completion of 75 glorious years in the industry. So you all, just around the time of independence in 1946, Mr. R.C. Gandhi founded the flagship group company of the Express Group, known as Express Transport Private Limited. This was then rebranded to Express Global Logistics Private Limited in 2012 and has established itself as a leading custom house agent and freight forwarding company with a staff strength of over 700 people with diversified interests. Other group companies include Express Equipment, Rental and Logistics, Express Engineering and Construction, Express Hotels, Urban Pod, EXM Project Movers, and CEL Logistics. Today, they encompass and give an all-round service in logistics comprising of project handling, door-to-door logistics, customs clearance, site handling, relocation of plant and machinery, freight booking, air and sea, ODC transport, warehousing, supply of heavy lift hydraulic axles and trailers and cranes, ISO tank containers, freight forwarding, 3PL, and contract logistics. So a one-stop shop for logistics. Gentlemen, welcome once again. It's a pleasure to have you all here.
Thank you. Thank you, President. Thank you, Xerrxes.
Thank you, Xerrxes.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us here.
Pleasure. Let's start straight into it. So it's a very unorthodox group in a way that you're two diversified, branches completely unrelated. One is hotels and the other is logistics. So let's start with your hotel business first. How did that come about? How did you start it? Give us a little bit on the origins of that.
Kayur, why don't you?
Who would like to take that? Yeah, Kayur,
so,
go ahead, please.
Our founder was a visionary in his own way back in those days. And we were handling a lot of projects in that region. So he used to frequent Baroda as a city. And he did fall in love with that city. And that's the time when he would frequent with a lot of foreigners and he would mingle with a lot of locals. And he found that there was a huge need for a good hotel, good hospitality, clean, and up to the levels what a foreigner would expect or other people would expect. And that's where he took the decision of getting into the hotel business with zero knowledge, but he took it as an opportunity, and that's how we got into the hospitality industry starting from Baroda, and now we have many more properties.
Okay.
So
coming back,
and he also was very conscious of the fact that he needed to diversify and not just put his eggs in one basket of logistics. So hotel was his first thought, his first brainchild.
Okay. So yours was, hotel came up when there was no five-star hotel in Baroda, I remember, and it's a landmark property on RC Road. It's at one time that was the only place you could go to. You have a landmark restaurant there as well. I've eaten there several times. Mandap, it's an iconic joint. So how did that, where you get one of the best, tastiest Gujarati food. When did that come about and how did that come about?
So after the hotels were started and operational, the next generation, that is the founders' children, while they were running the hotel, they saw the opportunity of having a specialized restaurant. A restaurant that would cater to the taste buds of not just the locals, but even foreigners. And that's when they came up with a thali concept, they started it. And after they started that restaurant, it was well received by the locals who otherwise were quite tuned to the concept of thali, but they received it very well. And of course, the foreigners, they needed neat, clean, good, tasty food, and they took it on also very well.
Good, great. And then you came up with this novel concept, which we had only heard in Japan, but I think You were the first and the pioneer in the capsule or the pod hotels, which they call urban pod. I think that was the first of its kind in India. I mean, that was a bold move. Indians are used to big rooms and, comforts. It's a very novel concept. It's a backpacker's concept, I would call it. So who came up with that idea and why did you go for it?
So if you've noticed the current generation of people and also probably a little the 90s and the 2000 generation people, they are quite adept to experimenting. They are not blindsided that they must go into a typical hotel type of a place to stay. And of course, there was a huge need and a demand for clean, neat, hygienic, but at the same time, very affordable. Price point was a very key aspect to it. And that helped us coin the idea of a pod hotel. But of course, location plays an extremely important role for such things. And so that's when we started it. And now we have our pod hotel in Mumbai Central Station, which is in the station itself. Again, a first of its kind in India. Yeah. It took a lot of convincing with the railways authorities, but they have got the idea. They're convinced that this is the way forward for the price conscious people who require hygienic staying facilities.
That's fantastic. I mean, how you convince the railways is something even more intriguing.
Xerrxes, I mean, just let me add out here. A lot of thought has gone behind this particular concept that we, because it's in that sense, it's a startup. It's huge investments and that too, it's experimental. But it's only when we jumped into it we realized the kind of engineering that was required to build these properties. They are small properties in size, but it was an enriching experience when we actually got down to the drawing board. So you learn a lot when you do new things, and Urban Pod was a fabulous experience in that sense. Yeah,
I'm sure.
Yeah.
So moving on to our line of business, we know everyone as soon as you enter the shipping fraternity, everyone knows express transport and their forte and projects. You are one of the largest of its kind in that particular segment. How did you get into that? I mean, you started as a freight forwarding CHA company. I can understand everyone starts that way. What your focus has been and your core has been always projects. So how did that come about?
So allow me. It was around 50s or mid 50s when our founder thought that he needs to now add in a new activity, which is beyond, handling simple cargo. That's the time he started working on taking some challenging assignments. And that's the time there was a company called Protons, which he pitched for, and they had this Bombay High project, and that Protons, which is now Siemens India, which was taken over later on by Siemens. So Bombay High was the first project of express transport then, which started our project journey. And since then, there's no looking back. I mean, we got into textiles, that projects, industry. Then we got into cement industry. So Proton was the first one, which was a Bombay High. And that's how the journey of handling projects on turnkey basis started in express transport then.
Yeah, but I think so over the years, you have branched out into various aspects of projects like heavy lift cranes and trawlers and now into axles, hydraulic axles, I know that, etc. So that requires a lot of investment and a lot of guts to, really, you have to take a call and there's a gestation period for it to really fructify and give you the returns.
Yeah, so we've always been an asset-based company, whether you look at hotels, cranes, and the transport division. And we believe that these assets are allowing us to move forward, in delivering these specialized services. It's actually in the mid 70s, we were into transportation. Thereafter, in the mid 80s, mid early end 80s, we walked out of transportation. We sold all our equipment because my father didn't believe that he felt that we are managing the drivers and the cops more than managing the project, and our expertise is in managing the project and not managing the drivers. And there was an issue with that category of services.
Yeah, there always is. There always
Yeah,
is.
correct. Yeah, so that's when we moved out of ownership of vehicles and focused more on project management. And we moved that investments more aggressively on the equipment side, which is more to do with site handling and erection. So though we started our crane business in 65 with GSFC project in hand, but we then expanded in the early 80s on the crane side. It's just now that it's 10 years that we've moved back to hydraulic axles and other heavy transport equipments. Yes, these are, if we can, I mean, we along with these assets, we need to invest in people. This is not.
That's a bigger challenge.
That's a bigger challenge, and it's about the kind of people you need. You need civil engineers, you need mechanical engineers, you need the engineers who can manage the softwares which are going to help you calculate the various aspects of project handling and project transportation. So it's a mixed bag, but you need all of this to really deliver something. But I think one thing is most important in project handling is no is an answer, and safety first. Never risk the cargo. So if you know how to use the answer no, that means that if you feel you cannot perform on that cargo, or you feel it's unsafe to handle that cargo, you have to use that no. So if you have these basic value systems, I think then you can do good for yourself. So it is about investment in equipments, people, and then your training and is required. Yeah.
Because you're moving, when people are emphasizing on asset light businesses, you are going the other direction, which is not wrong, I'm saying, but it is a bold and brave move. What I'm trying to say is that today the emphasis is on being asset light. So,
yeah. So that's the debate going on in our family since last 7-8 years. So we have also taken a conscious call that the generation 4, let them come in and let's see what they have to say and what is it that gives them the comfort of growing. So we'll look at it, but yes, there are pluses on both sides. So
both sides.
Yeah.
So anyway, Nilesh, congratulations. You just now recently, Nilesh and Kayur, you all handled a beautiful, huge piece of, I think, 1,000 tons plus for the in Mumbai MMRDA. I want to know, you must have handled hundreds of projects in your 75-year history. Which was the most challenging and daunting, which gave you sleepless nights? And which you, of course, completed all's well that ends well.
Very not a easy answer, or it's not a short answer. So no two projects are the same. Never. And the day you say that, this project is the same as what we did last year or last time, then that's the start of your problems and mistakes. So you have to take each project very seriously. You need to get into detailing of on every aspect of planning, equipment, safety, training, vendors, which vendors you're going to use, route survey, site survey, last mile survey, what is the solution? Does the solution and the equipment or the bridge work? Have you done the route survey? Does it cross the river? How are you going to cross the river? So there are, endless questions which one needs to be answered before you quote or before you take the job.
Let me rephrase and say which has been your most rewarding, and I don't mean financially, satisfaction.
So again, I'll give you a few, whatever comes, Yeah. So I'll give you a few quick, but they are all different. So there was a time when we handled an HBJ pipeline project, which was almost 160,000 tons of pipes of different diameters, all the way up to 48 inches. Now, it's just pipes, right? But it's in 6 months, we had to deliver at different sites on this entire edge route of HBJ, the cargo seamlessly without any cross deliveries. So there was immense planning. That time we didn't have computers, we didn't have spreadsheets. I still have those sheets on which the calculations were done and the planning was done. And that was a different excitement. I was a kid, but I was still there in Kandla for 3 months at that point of time. And that's when we did multimodal transport of moving pipes by rail and also by vehicles. We modified the railway wagons, we modified the trailers to optimize on space and safety deliveries. So it was a unique in that sense, right? Then we did Dabhol Power Corporation, DPC.
Yes.
Again, it's logistics, it's project logistics, but we did something more. We got into what should be the jetty? Why should the jetty come here? Can it accept larger ships or not? Obviously, we didn't play that engineering role, but we played a very important role in that whole activity. We got the licenses, the state and the central government license to allow a vessel to come and discharge import cargo and receive, and so in domestic cargo, allow coastal transportation, do bonding activities, carry out, and we had to transport special equipments to carry out this activity at site. So again, that was a very unique project in that sense, because it was turnkey, with compliance, with legal, with customs, with licenses, with permissions. So it was just not pure transportation, right? So there were different projects. Recently, we did for what you call a project for ISRO, and this was one project which did bother me a lot. I mean, I was a bit worried because of the COVID, the project was running behind schedule, and we were asked to safely transport it in monsoon by barge. Now they don't get, and then if you remember, there was a cyclone and there was this mess that had happened. So the barge that we had booked got damaged, and we had to look for a new barge. And we had to repair the jetty. We had to construct a jetty in monsoon, but we delivered the cargo. When we reached the other side, the last 80 kilometers took us 12 days to deliver. So our average was 6 kilometers of transportation in 12 hours. So because the height was there were villages, there were buildings to be broken. Again, that's completely a different kind of a project. One more, our company handled the very unique one where in Alang there was a ship breaking unit where an LNG ship was cut into pieces, and there was a buyer from Africa who came and bought these LNG tanks. Now each tank is 300 tons. Weighing diameter is 16.4 meters. So volume of each piece was 4,000 freight tons. Wow. And 4 of them. Now this was the unique part was they were expecting to transport it by barge in mid-sea and then load it on the project vessel. And we gave them a very unique solution of actually towing it. And that was beached on the high sea. We put it onto the water. We took it to Bhavnagar. We did sandblasting, and our own fabrication unit, designed special lugs, which allows a 300-ton piece to be towed in the sea with high currents, and allowed the ship's gear to lift it. So there was a lot of engineering, marine engineering involved. Fabrication was involved. And then obviously we did the lashing and securing of these packages on the ship. So this was a different type of project logistics activity, which we actually delivered these units to Africa. Another challenging one is the recent one, which is at the Trans Harbor Link. Now this one also was a nail-biting one, because we've never even imagined that we would end up taking such complex jobs. Okay, it was part of our goal that that this year or the next 2-3 years we will get into the next phase of project handling, and this was one of them. We had to import equipments. these equipments are not available in India. The length of some of the pieces are 180 meters long. Weighing, the heaviest piece is 2,700 tons. And it needs a lot of fabrication work is involved. The stools have to be fabricated, hinges have to be fabricated on which this package rests. And at least there were like 8 or 9 engineers involved for almost a period of 6 months, finalizing the safety transportation of the first package, which just happened 2-3 weeks back. So yes, all of them are, complex in its own way, but that's logistics. We are multimodal transport operators in them, right? Yeah. So you have to look at rail, you have to look at coastal, you have to look at ships, you have to look at barge, you have to look at by road. You have to cover all this to deliver a project. Yeah.
I think your family must be one of the highest customers for sleeping pills. Huh? You need them.
No. Sorry. No, I'm serious. No is an answer. Yeah. Take the job which you can deliver.
Yeah.
Don't accept the job which you cannot perform or cannot deliver. There is absolutely no room to take trouble home.
I know.
And not projects, because you're risking cargo, you're risking people's lives. So
yeah,
absolutely no room. So yeah.
So moving on, Nilesh and Kayur, I mean, I know that you're a big family. I've met most of your brothers and cousins who are in the business. You're all in a very harmonious unit. You all distribute your jobs evenly. Everyone's performing their thing very well. That's a case study in itself. How do you, so that, you're the 3rd generation now. The 4th is coming in slowly. How do you keep your family united? Because we see so many family breakups right now of business and splits. 75 years, 3 generations of business, yet you are united and flourishing. What's the secret of your success in that? It's a case study in itself. So,
Kayur, why don't you
cover
it? Yeah.
So it's a very wide subject. There are a lot of inputs, a lot of points, but I'll try and make it very concise and brief. One of the very important aspects is disciplines and rules, even within families. A simple thing like, if any of the family member is going to go to the hotel or eat in the mandap restaurant or even stay in urban pod, even if some of our staff is staying in urban pod, we all have to pay. There is nothing that you can just sign it off, or there's no free lunch, no free stay. So discipline plays a very important role. So nothing is taken for granted. That's a very important thing. The other thing is, it's all about planning and understanding the softer aspects of a family's needs. Right. So if you've understood the softer aspects, we are able to bifurcate the business from the family. Now, it's easier said than done. It's always a work in progress. But if you are conscious towards the fact of the bifurcation between business and family, I think that's a good starting point to maintain the harmony, maintain the unity within the family members. We take every opportunity of a holiday, family gatherings, events, functions. But then during these events, we just get silly with each other. We don't talk business. It's
no business.
Yeah, we just whack each other on the back and have fun. I mean, that's the whole idea. And that bonding is the softer aspect which I was talking about, and that bonding is what keeps us together. I guess diversification of the businesses has also helped in a very, very large way. Everybody's not in the same business. We have different businesses based on each one's strengths and skill sets. But at the same time, there is a huge amount of accountability on each member. Again, it's not taken for granted that just because you're managing a business, you can do what you want. There is an accountability. Everybody's held accountable in terms of the bottom line, growth, and other things. You see, gatherings in the boardroom are all about business growth, wealth creation, diversification, business plans, new things, new aspects, new learnings, etc. Whereas events, gatherings, it's all about fun. Another way, I would call it unique to us. I speak again for myself, not for every family business, but I feel that our seniors have been very forward thinking. When I say that, what I mean by that is, at some point in time, every family member has had an individual accommodation allotted to them, right? So they have a house of their own. And what that means is, and what that does is that it helps create individual space for each other. They get their own individual space. You're not eating into each other's time. You're not getting into their face. It also fosters a sense of security, because if you have a house, there is a sense of security that you have for yourself. You have an asset to yourself, your family, for your children. So that has helped in creating a lot of positivity between the family members. And we are very clear, the house and the office, they are two separate locations, two separate entities, and discussions at both these locations are very different and very focused. So these are just some of the key things that have helped in ensuring harmony, fostering friendship as well as professionalism between the family members. Oh yeah, and one more very important thing is we are very conscious and clear that we do not want to create any disguised employment. So roles, responsibilities, and accountabilities play a big role. I guess this is what I could summarize in this less than a minute in terms of what it is that takes to keep a family together.
Okay, so I just have to ask one more thing. Very good answer. How does decision making take place in such a complex, diversified business? There are bound to be disagreements. Some may feel we should buy the crane. Some guy may say we don't want to buy the crane. Example, we buy a hotel, we don't want to buy a hotel. So how do you arrive? How do you arrive at a consensus then?
First, let me add a little bit from what Keyur mentioned. Also, which actually, one is, I think trust and transparency plays an extremely important role if you want to move from one generation to the next generation. And I think that's the top of the line requirement. What we did is we created a family office, and this family office actually has played a very important role in managing the family. This family office looks at the complete tax management, compliance. We are extremely compliance driven. I mean, shockingly high compliance driven. And then from compliance, the family office looks at wealth preservation, what is right and wrong, what we need. I mean, wealth preservation to the extent is the documents in order, is the nomination there in place, who should be the joint account holder, and not from today, but for the next 30 years and 40 years. So a lot of thinking goes behind such matters in the family office. And since last 20 years, 15, 20 years, it's playing a role of wealth creation. So now the family office it's on its own. And it is no longer dependent on what the business is going to give to the family office. In fact, it's strong enough for the family office to give to the business as if required. And that has brought in a lot of confidence to the next generation also. Clarity that our job is to focus in business and let the family office carry out the requirements of the family. So that's one part which I wanted to cover, what Keyur was mentioning and covering. On decision making, I think it's, again, like I said, it's about trust and accountability. So there is no room for fooling around or experimenting. Yes, business is about risk, and you have to take risk. It's nothing works without taking a risk.
There's no free lunch.
Absolutely. So it has to be a calculated risk, and you need to be a bit sure. We do our own ways of calculating what is right and wrong, where will we succeed, where we can fail. We do involve professionals, and professionals play a very important role. I must add here, professionals do play a very important role in a family office and a family business. So you have to involve them, take their advice, involve professionals in taking certain calls. Once that that path is played, we do meet as a board, and if the company is going to invest without asking or borrowing money from the shareholders, then by and large the decision is taken by the board of that company who's managing that company, the chairman of that company, individual company. If the investment is large or if it's new, then we do discuss jointly, and we do come up with points where we do end up changing our decision, but it's more of a collective decision than an individual's decision. And there are cases where somebody has to come in and decide. So we have Vinod Gandhi, who's the chairman of the group. He does take those decisions. He used to take those decisions, and currently I'm in that seat to take that decision. But but it's not been required, or it's been fair. We've been fair with each other, and we've been taking those calls collectively by and large. Yeah.
Super. So my next last two questions: how do you innovate? And you're a family-run concern. Family-run concerns have their limitations, resource-wise, etc. How do you innovate and keep abreast of the competition with the MNCs and the big boys? How do you keep yourself going and making sure that you're relevant to your customer and don't lose out?
So, just a few quick points on this. Sorry, Nalish, I'll just give my few quick points on this. See, no competition can ever be ignored, right? Whether it's with a large company or a small company, whether an MNC or whether an Indian, no competition should ever be ignored. That's our belief. We cannot be complacent on that. But we believe that any business has three key components. You have a customer, you have your own people, and you have partners like vendors, colleagues, like Amtoi members, and so on and so forth. And these are the ones who are going to teach us a lot. As long as we have a clear focus on these three key components, with this, you can make your clear goals. You can make a good business plan. With a good business plan, you can define who are going to be your key executioners for the business plan. And with that, you are defining the roles, responsibilities, and accountabilities of these executioners of the business plan. And of course, these executioners are not just the family members. It's a mix of family members. It's a mix of professionals, mentors, veterans, and a lot of other people. So I guess as long as we keep a focus on these three components, we stay focused on our vision, our mission, and the plans, then whether it's an MNC, whether it's a local company, I guess we're always going to be confident of trying to be one step ahead of competition. The key is never to lose focus on your goalpost, right? If you focus on the competitor, at some point you will miss out on what your goalpost is. I guess this is how I would summarize in terms of how we can stay relevant in the business. Of course, you have to keep your eye on what's happening, the changes, we have to adapt, we have to innovate. The digital disruption is a point of concern, but I guess there are going to be solutions. We just need to find that.
I'll just add a little more. I mean, Keyur has covered it, but I think people's engagement, that's the stuff, with your, is I think so playing a very vital role in fighting competition. So our, I think the management has to play that role of involving the professionals involved, giving authorities to your team to manage the business. And that is also helping us, move from generation to generation. So as we take our investment seriously on assets, we have to take our investments in people as seriously.
Equally. Yeah, people make the organization.
Absolutely. Yeah. So and treat them with very high respect and just like another family member.
Sure. So
today also, whenever new employee joins, he is welcomed as a family member in the organization. These are small things that we do to, keep the engagement with the staff well. And they are playing a very important role in today's time for us.
Great. So now, last question before we end the session. Rightly you said that, planning has to go in, and now the fourth generation is coming in slowly with your son, etc. So how do you plan your succession planning? You have had 3 generations, you have gone through it. A smooth succession planning is the key for the longevity of the organization and the evolvement as well. So how do you do that? And what's your game plan, or what's your secret recipe?
Keyur, you also worked hard on this point, and please, why don't you cover part of it? Yeah, Keyur.
Yeah, so again, Xerrxes, within the family, we play on each other's strengths. That's a very important aspect. So what the role that I have played is we are all aware of what the Lakshman Rekha is between the business and the family. And we have tried to document this Lakshman Rekha, which was thought to be invisible, but we've documented it in the form of a family charter. Now, the family charter basically is talking about the do's and the don'ts, right? So we conceptualized it, we've written it ourselves, very specific to the family. We finalized it within the family. There was a unanimous agreement between everybody before we tabled it and signed it. And it is always going to be a work in progress. Now, and of course, external help, professionals, mentors, veterans, they have all helped us in fine-tuning this document. And one of the major points of this document is induction. So the induction as a topic is what addresses the next generation in terms of how they can enter, what are they supposed to prepare themselves before they enter. That gives them visibility for the next generation as young as 16-year-old, that if they do want to get into the family business, what do they have to prepare themselves for? What education should they do? What kind of work experience are they expected to do from the outside world? How do they skill themselves? What are the preparations before they can even be considered to enter the family business? And with that, we have tried to address it. Like I said, it's a work in progress, and we have tried to address it. And we have brought in the next generation who have come in with a huge amount of experience, skills, and knowledge. Something which is something we are very proud of. And this, I guess, is the first step towards how do you plan your succession, because you have brought in the right people with the right skill sets. That's the first point. And second is, succession is not about the oldest gets this role or that role. Succession is about who is the most capable, who is the most skilled, who is the most, in a way, perceived to be the visionary, the one who's going to be able to show the roadmap to the rest. I guess that plays also a very big role in the succession and who plays what role within the family businesses on a very broader aspect, on a very broader level. So this is how I would summarize as to what we have tried to do.
So that's something, because I hope it doesn't lead to unpleasantness at the old. Normally, it's always taken Indian families of the oldest takes over, irrespective of his capabilities. So that's a path-breaking move, a very professional move, if I might add.
Yes, it's a very competitive world. There is no room for errors and stupid errors. Yeah. So, to just add to this point, we, actually have on board what we call a CSO. That's a Chief Strategy Officer. We are blessed with good, people helping us on different requirements of ours. Earlier, we had a professor with us for 5 years on this subject. And now we have a CSO who's going to play a very wider role on processes, on finances, and most important, on people, right? So all the support services is what the CSO is going to play on. And then we move on to the strategy and visioning activity. But one of the most important role that he is going to play, he is already playing, is the bridge between generation 2 to generation 4 and generation 3 to generation 4. And he fortunately, he understands the family business, and he understands the value of a family also. And so that's also, I think so, helping us work on this succession planning in a more scientific way. I don't know whether scientific way is the right word, but to be as correct as possible.
Most objective way would be the right.
Yeah, correct.
Okay. Thank you so much, Keyur and Nilesh. Really, really invigorating session, thought-provoking, given us a much food for thought. I would request, if anyone has any questions, to please put them in the Q&A chat box. I'm sure Shantanu has a few. So Shantanu, please, the floor is yours, while we wait for anyone to put their questions in the Q&A chat box. Thank you once again. Nilesh and Kayur. Thank you.
I think before I ask my question, I think I should share my thoughts about Nilesh in particular, but of course Vinod Bhai and Kayur. See, it is said that some people and some companies bring dignity to the occupation. They elevate the occupation from a level of trade to a high profession. And this is what Vinod Bhai and Xerrxes Group has done. I have not met the founder, but Vinod Bhai I have been meeting for a long time. And my father had a very high respect for Vinod Bhai for some qualities, which is integrity, knowledge, the way he articulated things and upright approach. I see all these qualities in Nilesh. I have seen him closely, Kayur not so closely. But I will also add that there are more qualities that we can all look forward. One is diversification of business and diversification of investments, both. They are working together in a large family, brothers, cousins, and I believe 3 generations. Of course, it is a business is into 4th generation, but I think 3 generations are still together in some role. And handling difficult thing like project. So it is like tightrope walk with bottle on the head dance together. So it must require amazing caliber and confidence amongst each other. So tremendous. So congrats. I work with Nilesh in associations, in 3 associations, in fact, BCBA, FFI, Amtoi, and he always had exemplary conduct and contributions. And with whatever interactions I saw in Kayur, he has out-of-box thinking. I'm still congratulating them for Platinum Jubilee because we are waiting for the lavish party. One big and another private for close friends, and then that's the occasion for it. So thanks Kayur and Nilesh for sharing your experience, ideas and vision without holding anything. You have my question, coming to my question. I think you are investing now in HR quite strongly. That's a private discussion we had. What is your vision for investing in HR personnel and human resource development? And where do you expect it will lead you to for differentiation? And as Kayur said, don't take any competition lightly. We take all competition seriously. How will it give you a competitive edge? Can you share your ideas on those aspects?
So, it's about, since 1.5 years, we working on different initiatives on people's engagement. One is on the digital side. We've introduced new softwares. There's a software called Amber where the employee is given freedom to give free feedback to the management, and it's only Kayur and me who's allowed to study and read the feedback. It's an AI based product, so it does give you a lot of insight in areas of your strengths and areas which needs attention. Now we've introduced another platform, which is an HRMS platform, which brings in tremendous transparency in people's management policies, visibility of their availability and the work they do. So this is on the digital side. It's so that it's not what she said, he said. It's about what the system says. But now we have brought in some very senior person on the HR side, because asset is something that you can buy. It's people that you have to develop. That's when we have heavily invested on that front in developing the future of our own staff, getting into different programs of employee development, trying to give opportunities for some of the staff to be the change managers. So they will take up specific new roles outside their day-to-day activities and try and see what they can bring in some innovation. And yes, we are investing in additional manpower and creating new positions who will act as change managers. So Shantanu, yes, I think that's the biggest step that we've taken this year, is to invest only in people over assets.
And just one more point, Shantanu. You see, for my personal belief is that after having worked for so long, me for 20 years, Naresh for almost 40 years, we have a tendency of being a little subjective and a little bit soft on our people in terms of what we perceive them to be, their skills and their deliverables. But we've slightly moved away from that in the sense that we have a CSO who's an external person who's helping us drive this entire change. And more importantly, we have Gen 4. So Arush Gandhi from Generation 4 who's joined in, he has come in with a lot of objective way of thinking. And I believe that that's making a very big difference because he is coming with a completely clean slate. He does not have any past baggage and he is coming in to drive this entire change. And I think he's bringing a lot of positivity in the whole time. So I guess a different mindset plays a very big role in how do you bring in change management as far as people are concerned. So I just wanted to add on to that.
Yeah, and Shantanu, one more thing, yes, Arush has just come in. He's worked elsewhere for 3.5 years, and he's bringing that experience also on the table. And he has been put into, only in the support service area, that is IT, finance, and HR. He's not customer facing at this point of time. And the reason is that if the support services cannot service my own, customer facing people correctly and properly, or cannot give them, that the processes or the systems, how can my, customer facing people service their customers, our customers? So we are trying to look at our internal activities and processes very deeply. And we know we are seeing the difference in the last 3 to 4 months, and we are very confident that's going to help us, survive probably one more generation. That the idea is that we've done 75 years, we've survived 75 years. What do we have to do now to survive the next 75 years? Is the goal. Actual goal is what are we going to do to survive the next 75 years, and that's where we are focusing right now.
I think for clarity, Xerrxes is your son, I think.
Yeah.
So participants can know that. Keyur, one question for you. I think you are halfway between now, like Nailesh, we belong to one and you are still young. So what is one clear message you want to give anyone who wants to join or not join our occupation? And when I say our occupation, I would define international logistics, including regulatory compliance, both physical logistics and compliance. What is one message anyone wanting to join or a family member not wanting to join, to be more precise?
So after finishing my post-graduation in the year 2000, I was given the option of joining the family business or given the option of not joining. So the first message I'd like to give is that the senior generation has to be very forward-thinking and open to the idea of the next generation entering or not entering. So that's a very key takeaway. So it was an open book for me, join or not to join. Second, from a very early on age, that entire passion was already in me as far as the logistics business is concerned, after having seen my father work the way he did. So I was always driven towards this business. Now, a lot of people may say that freight forwarding business or customs clearance is not as glamorous as other industries, but it's all in the mind, right? If you have the passion, you have the drive, any business is going to look glamorous. So you need to have the drive, you need to have the passion, you need to love what you do. That is a very key important before you even think of getting into a family business or, for that matter, our industry. And once these two things are taken care of, I guess our business or industry or any family business, it's a no-brainer whether to join or not. So does that answer your question, Shantanu? Or
one more point, just an input, Shantanu. Just sorry, I'm interrupting. But I think if we should never take problems home, because when you take problems home, then you're sending a negative message about your own business. So I think if we can practice not taking
Very
problems
difficult.
home, it helps.
That's
No, but
very
it helps. It helps.
It
But
helps.
that's very true, Nilesh. One study shows one of the top reason why the next generation doesn't join the family business, not just India, anywhere else in the world, is people at home talk very negative and pessimistically about the business. Why would the next generation join when you are so negative?
Yeah.
So Xerrxes, do you see any questions or we can ask?
So I think we are done. There's no questions, so we can close. You can give
We can close and open up. Anand.
No, Anand has just said thank you.
Yeah, okay. I think we can close the formal session.
Thank you, Kayur and Nilesh, once again.
Chat.
Superb session.
Once again, thank you, Xerrxes. Thank you, Shantanu. Thank you, Amtoi. Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Amtoi. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And Shantanu, we are very humbled by your kind words about Vinod Bhai, about our family, about our business. Thank you very much. And we really appreciate the association, all the members, because for us, all of you are a family at the end of the day. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you.